You in a relationship?
Nah.
Right?
I'm on a date.
But he is mirroring my pain to bring that to the surface so that I deal with it and I learn how to self-soothe.
I identify more with the wounded masculine because I was that person that felt that all I could offer was great sex, but I could not be intimate. I would be the person that would roll over because I didn't know how to be intimate. I had the fear of intimacy.
And I thought I was the healthy feminine. Right? So I convinced other people that I could heal them when really I was trying to heal myself through healing them.
She gave birth to her wounds before she gave birth to me and made me treat them like siblings.
Hey guys, this is Subjectivity UK with your host Lionheart.
And Rachel.
And here today we're discussing love dramas, the wounded feminine and wounded
masculine.
Ooh.
What do we know about love dramas? I don't know anything.
I don't know anything.
I'm looking forward to learn a thing or two. What is wounded masculine? What is wounded feminine? Tell me, please.
So today's show we're going to be discussing the wounded feminine and wounded masculine, pretty much looking at each individual criteria and how that all revolves around our love drama. Sometimes it causes it. Sometimes if we really understand what's at the root of these issues, we can resolve it and become healthy people.
There are lessons in love dramas, and hopefully there are some lessons that you can take away with you today.
The terms masculinity and femininity refer to traits or characteristics typically associated with being male or female respectively. Traditionally, masculinity and femininity have been conceptualized as opposite ends of a single dimension, with masculinity at one extreme and femininity at the other. Now, just to kind of give you some context about that overarching theme, right? This is a very Western perception of masculinity and femininity, okay? We're going to talk how we're going to approach the show tonight. In researching this topic, we've concluded that society's awareness has advanced beyond conflating, which is confusing, or associating femininity and masculinity with gender. Is everyone with me to this point? Yep. If you're not, please let me know now. So at the end of the show, you don't I still don't get what you're talking about, all right? So we're not associating that or conflating with masculine and feminine with gender tonight. Also, today's show will define the two terms with energy, summarized as characteristics and traits that are not mutually exclusive to gender or however you wish to identify yourself with, okay? This is not a heteronormative show. Give us your opinion. We want to know how you feel, how you orient yourself in the world. This is a free-flowing, safe space show. Can I get an amen? Amen. For the people who don't believe in God, amen. So, how we're going to define the wounded masculine today? Tends to avoid connection, can be cold and distant, takes, I'm hearing already. God, yo, I read the first line, Rachel, you know. My goodness. Lay it off your chest today, yeah? Just lay it off your chest. Takes everything personal and needs to be right. That's going to be some of you in the room today. Sometimes runs away from love, withdraws, creates separation. Aggressive, critical, judgmental, narcissistic, and selfish. Some of our exes, isn't in touch with his emotions. We're going to eradicate his and not put his there, right? So that's in touch with their emotions. Addicted to work, focused on goals, attached to success. Serious, rigid, controlling, fears failure. That is the wounded masculine today, all right? The wounded feminine. Usually insecure, looks for external validation, always has something to criticize, needy in relationships, needs love, can't control emotions, tends to be manipulative, afraid of loss and is very attached, desperate for love, feels like a victim, prioritizes others at their expense, again, not her, their expense, no boundaries or self-control. Again, just want to make this very clear. We're not associating this with gender at all today. Can I get an amen? I don't know where this is coming from, you know. Subjectivity isn't church. I feel like I'm one with God right now. So, the warm-up question is this. Do you agree with the previous wounded masculine or feminine breakdown? If not, how would you define them?
The point that I made was that from my experience, I found that men feel as though they can't chase success and have love at the same time. And I think that's the misconception of like falling in love as though love is going to be something that hinders you, when actually love is something that you rise in. So when you're rising in love, that's going to have a positive effect on all aspects of your life, especially with your productivity, your career, motivation. If it's the right person, then it's not going to be a hindrance.
So, are there any women in the building that experience that same drive and devotion to prioritizing success, maybe more so than a relationship. In the same way that we are saying that men are almost indoctrinated with this wounded feminine to want to be addicted to success so much it's a priority in that person's life to make that person feel good. Are we not saying that also other people, so other genders, perceive themselves in a way to prioritize that addiction to success over a relationship or connection with a partner? That's the context.
I come from a culture where women are generally dependent financially on either their fathers or later on in life their husbands. So I've seen what it's like for women who don't have that financial independence. Overall, they don't have that independence in life. And I've seen women in my family who did not get married, and they're older ladies, and how vulnerable they are in the society. And I think this made me feel like I don't want this for myself. This is why I feel like I strive so hard to have this security for myself, and I don't want to wait. It's understandable from where I come from that some women will try to find this security through a husband, but I feel like I can't leave it to luck. I have to make it for myself. And I think I noticed as I'm older, I realized that my mom's obsession about financial security comes from seeing her aunt who was not married. She was basically she was lucky to have family members and relatives who took care of her, but what if she didn't have that? So I feel like my mom would panic in her head. I don't want to be like that auntie of mine. And I feel like it's continued with me. So coming to partners, I feel like if I don't meet a partner whose energy is aligned with mine and who will support my success in that sense, that independence, I wouldn't settle for just the sake of being in a relationship, no matter how, compatible we are. But I feel like this part of compatibility is key to me.
The lady over there said men feel as if when they fall in love, it can hinder them. If you actually talk to guys and talk to us, we have a lot of friends who did fall in love and it did hinder them. So it's not any love, it's the type of love that they fall into. If you fall into someone who you can build up and they can build you up into your success, that relationship will work. But if you're just trying to just follow all the emotions and not your mind as well, from what I've seen personally, they got left behind. They didn't do much.
It's all good being attracted to someone's energy, but if that energy is constructive to your life, is another thing. You can fall in love with someone that's not right for you. It's all about picking the right person for you. That's where people get mixed up because they're so emotionally devoid that they're so eager to leap into a relationship where they haven't built the foundations, haven't realized if they're compatible with another person. If you're compatible, then it'll work out and you'll both, push each other. So it depends.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
So I know the focus is on wounded feminine and wounded masculine, but on the flip side, the healthy feminine is the most healing thing for the masculine energy and vice versa. Healthy masculine energy is the most healing thing for the feminine energy as well. So they balance each other out, and everyone's talking about you need to find the right one, but you will not attract a balanced, healthy partner if you're not balanced yourself. It's not going to happen. But let me tell you something. Because when you're in the wounded feminine, you attract wounded masculine. It's like... But wounded feminine is an enabling energy. It enables the narcissistic, wounded masculine energy. And what does a wounded... And again, we said we're not talking about gender because it happens both ways. It happens both ways. You have narcissistic women in relationships with empathetic men, and you have empathetic women in relationships with narcissistic men. And they're attracted to each other because they're both imbalanced. But like attracts like once you are in balance.
Okay, yeah.
I love that the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine is being brought up. I feel as though the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine also attract everyone. And so it's important to have discernment when you come across different people, so you can put up your boundaries and you know how to actually instill your standards and choose the right person. So I think that's important as well.
I was the wounded feminine from around the age of, let's say, 16 to 18. And I thought I was the healthy feminine. Right? So I convinced other people that I could heal them when really I was trying to heal myself through healing them. So I think even though we kind of welcome or attract these partners, sometimes we confuse which one we actually are and think we're doing a service to someone else based on our energy conception, when really we're doing ourselves the disservice. So we really need to understand which ones we are and which, I guess, positive pursuit we're actually orientating ourselves from. So if we're the wounded masculine, don't think you're going out there trying to be this person who's not in control, but you're actually trying to manipulate the situation around you. And if you're the wounded feminine, you think that, cool, I need external validation. You're actually sometimes trying to be of service to everyone so that they validate your healthy side.
I witnessed my mum go through relationships. I was raised by a single mum. But at a young age, I was always aware of what she went through. She told me what things she went through to make me avoid some of the situations. But in a way, I always say, I wrote a poem about this, I always say that she gave birth to her wounds before she gave birth to me and made me treat them like siblings, because I was raising them and taking care of these wounds that I then took on when I had never experienced those experiences.
Yeah, that was deep, man. That was deep. That was...
So even up to a relationship that was ending recently, I was leaving and she was kind of like, well, no, say, if you leave the man, you find a man that beat you. No. And I was like, I've never experienced a bad man in my life, so why am I now taking your wounds as my reality? So yes, in a way, because her teachings did teach me to stay away from bad man. But in another way, it also taught me to be quite fearful of being alone, which is something that I agree with. You have to balance yourself first as well. So yeah, that's my experience.
And my job is as a community engagement officer to speak to loads of young people, loads of people about where they've learned about a healthy relationship anyway. And what I've found is we're not really taught what a healthy relationship is anyway. So we grow up and we see what our parents go through, our friends go through, even the TV, and that sometimes can give us very unrealistic expectations, like my wife and kids. A lot of us related to that family and hope for that. And then also we also grew up seeing our parents maybe go through stuff that we would never want to go through again. But also on the flip side, if you relate more to maybe a perpetrator in that perspective, you might grow up wanting that because you saw the power that that person perhaps had. So when we do look at breeding maybe perpetrators as well as abusers, we have to really take into fact of the relationship that they've consumed in general. But I also think another good point is we're all individuals, so what is good for us isn't going to be good for everyone else, and we don't really know ourselves enough to know what is really going to nurture us in the right way. So we all kind of think, growing up, we think, oh, go for a man who will provide for you, who will do this for you, but you might want to be the provider, you might want to do things. So it's all about, I think, really understanding yourself to understand what is really working for you and not really caring what everyone else has to say. If it works for you, Sue, and you're happy, then that's that.
I've always grown up with both my parents, been together since they were very, very young. That's basically where my ideals of love and relationships came from. In this instance, my dad was the perpetrator, which I know a lot of people can relate to. But for me, as a daddy's girl, and then combining that with the childlike image of love that I had, actually, the influence it had was negative for my mum. In my current adult stage, I actually looked at her and was more like, why'd you stay? Like, there was no empathy. It was more so like a resentment. And I think upon reflection on that resentment was more so me projecting my own experiences onto my mum and kind of wanting her to have that responsibility, almost like I'm holding you accountable for my success in love and relationships. You failed, I'm gonna fail type thing. So that's the first way that it impacted. And then just on the friends piece, I will say that again, I think uni's a really big example of this. I'd seen friends go through experimenting, trying things, rebelling, whatever, things that I maybe wasn't into. And what that actually impacted was it impacted our friendships negatively, because the stance that I took was not of a supportive friend. It was not of somebody that was going to be a listening ear. It was judgmental. And so what that meant was that by seeing my friends go through love dramas, it actually impacted our relationships by them feeling that like they cannot come to me first and foremost. I'm not there, I'm judgmental. But again, there's also an element of projecting as to why do I feel this way about their situation? It's not harming me. And so what that then kind of led into, and you know, it's taken a long time to build back, is having that trust in your friendship, and in the same way that you need to have in your relationships of bringing your whole self and trusting that someone's not going to judge you for it or hold it against you.
Hello. So my name is Africa, and yes, it's my real name. I'm a mindset coach, and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a speaker, and I'm a sobriety advocate as well. So kind of most of my story and my journey is a big focus on self-sabotage, which is why I love...
You lot didn't hear that exhale that came from the left.
A big focus of what I do, whether it's kind of my own storytelling or just the work that I do as a coach, it's mainly focusing on self-sabotage, which is why I love everything we're speaking about today. And I'll kind of just give a little bit of context as to why that is for me. So 3 years ago, I got sober after nearly a decade of very destructive drinking. I had a very toxic relationship with alcohol and drugs. And 3 years ago, I got sober after 7 times of attempting sobriety, 7 times. And what I realized in that time as to what was so different about this 8th time was that I was suddenly aware of myself. I was suddenly aware of the fact that it wasn't just about putting aside the alcohol. There was something much deeper that had to happen. I suddenly realized what self-awareness even was. I discovered what self-sabotage was, when you kind of stand in your own way, when you know the things that you want to do, but you, for some reason, you just stand in your own way every single time because ultimately you don't believe that you're deserving of happiness. And because exactly as you said, you're a sponge from about the age of 0 to 7, that's when it's more intensified, where you kind of just pick up, you don't know who you are. You don't have any sense of self. The self that you know is what you see in the mirror and your name. But so that's kind of how I fell into speaking about self-sabotage. And I feel like it ties in perfectly with a lot of what we're speaking about today.
So can we please give another huge round of applause?
I think for me, and maybe this will kind of connect to the question in some kind of way, but it's something that I realized about myself this summer. And it was very interesting to kind of take a close look at it. And maybe some people will resonate with this. I realized that I have the fear of intimacy, and I had no idea. Because I thought my idea of being intimate has always been very controlled, but I never realized that. So I grew up in a home where domestic violence was the norm. I had a very violent father. And so it was kind of just the norm, but I realize now from a very young age, it's almost like I put my emotional side into a box, and I had to always kind of guess what state this person was going to be in so that I could be safe, right? So somewhere along the way, I started to really control the levels of intimacy that I would allow, because I never thought that it was safe for me to truly be intimate. And I realized that this pattern was showing up in my relationships. And when you put up this slide of the wounded masculine, I just felt my entire heart drop, because I could see myself in pretty much all of those things. Because somewhere along the way, when I put my emotions in that box, that's when I closed up my femininity, because I learned that there was no place for it. It was very unsafe for me to be fully feminine. Of course, I can present as such, I can be desirable, I can have sex, I can appear feminine, but I can't be as intimate as I truly want to be, unless it's controlled. So it's
But Africa, let me ask you then. So you came to a point where you realized that you had a wounded feminine.
Yes.
So where did you go from there? Where do we go from that point?
I'm still there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are. This is what I was saying to my new friend here, that I think a lot of us are right there. I don't think you ever get to this destination where you've healed and then you get some certificate that says you finally healed.
Wouldn't that be nice, though?
Right?
Yeah,
I think it's
nice.
quite egoic to think that exists. I think it's a continuous process. But I truly believe that the most empowering thing is to be aware of it. Because when I saw myself in all of those things and in the wounded feminine, but more so the masculine, it's like I felt this relief because now I know. Because once you see it, then you become aware of it. Because it's almost like in my relationships, if something is going too well, I feel very uncomfortable because I'm used to a struggle, I'm used to a discomfort on some level, even just a tiny little bit. Makes me feel more at home than just comfort and ease.
I want you to tell me who is the wounded feminine or who is the wounded masculine in this situation. And again, we're speaking about from your perspective. This is your partner, okay?
Like, I got some hella body issues that I can't even go into the gym by myself. My partner obviously has their issues from, like, their family. They've inherited, like, women from their, like, being the feel the need to be financially secure. But if you don't feel like you can be emotionally available for your partner as well, then maybe you shouldn't be in a position where you should be in a relationship. That being said, though, me, myself, if I'm this, person as well, I shouldn't be looking to somebody else to heal me. I'm the only person who can heal me. Someone can maybe assist me in certain little ways, but the majority of the work is my own. You know what I mean?
Can we give a round of applause for that? Hold on to the mic, though. Hold on to the mic. We're going to get personal, okay?
All right, go on.
You in a relationship?
Nah,
right?
I'm on a date.
Now listen.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Listen.
Hopefully it works out.
Hey. Wouldn't you want your partner to help you through the times where you feel like you can't handle it by yourself, though? Because let's say right now...
To a certain degree, bro.
Not to a certain degree, because it's a partnership. In my view of a relationship, sometimes you can't carry the weight of wanting to change yourself or wanting to work on yourself. Sometimes you need someone else apart. It doesn't have to be the person you're dating or you're in a relationship or marriage with, but having that partner sometimes can be an imperative part of your growth.
You can have someone who can be your accountability.
I'm trying to make you look good now, bro.
You know what I mean? No, like, you can have someone... Alright, you can have someone who's like your accountability partner, that's all good, right? But I think if there's an issue within you that you can't see yourself when you communicate with yourself, no other person can be that mirror to kind of help you understand something about yourself. But that work still needs to be done on your own. Yeah. You're in a relationship with someone, but you're still two individuals on a journey together, but you're still your individual at the same time. You know what I mean?
Okay, so me and my partner are both wounded. Neither of us feel that we are enough.
Yep.
I am in my wounded feminine because I am seeking his validation. I don't feel physically attractive without compliments or that verbal affirmation or validation from him. He is in his wounded masculine. He doesn't feel he's enough as he is. So he is an overachiever and he seeks his sense of self-worth through his achievements, through his career. But ultimately our wound is the same. The source of our insecurity is the same, however, it's manifesting in different ways. That same childhood wound either creates an empath or a narcissist, wounded feminine or wounded masculine, but he is mirroring my pain to bring that to the surface so that I deal with it and I learn how to self-soothe. The objective is for me to learn how to self-soothe, not for him to soothe me or to heal me.
You need your own talk show. That's one thing I know. You need your own talk show. All right, thank you so much.
Just add something to this because it's a very personal experience. I can see myself in all of this, and it ties in with what I was saying when I said that I identify more with the wounded masculine because I was that person that felt that all I could offer was great sex, but I could not be intimate. I would be the person that would roll over because I didn't know how to be intimate. I had the fear of intimacy. But how that would manifest is me being very cold, me leading men on, all of those kinds of things. So that's how that manifested. But I think we also really have to acknowledge the last sentence where the person has been very apparent. I have been very apparent that the person has been very apparent that they're receiving therapy, which means they are being open. They're on the journey of healing themselves. Of course, they have wounds, right? But they're aware of that on some level because they have been very honest about it.
What an incredible and remarkable show we've had today.
I am blown away. People's insights into the wounded masculine, the divine masculine, wounded feminine, divine
You took
feminine.
it there, you know. Wow.
It was insane. Like people I just didn't even know what it was going into it, but now I know so much more.
What was one of the takeaways that you took from today's show?
Oh my days.
Because there was so much from Africa Brooke who just came and shut it down.
One major takeaway was sometimes we look for somebody to be wounded so that we can trick ourselves into thinking that we are the healed person in that relationship. You know what I'm saying?
And I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? For me, what did I learn? There was so much from it, man. One, I'm just really grateful that we have a community that is always open to share and be transparent. Yeah. Today we used our cut the crap. And when I saw people's reactions to this, like, oh, I want to kind of share my perspective. We had a gentleman who was sitting there at a projection screen. And when he spoke about his father and how his father carried themselves into the relationship, how that filtered into him and how he wants to actually help his family never suffer. For me, I was like, yo, the wounded masculine, sometimes it feels like it's a beneficial thing, but it leaves room and space for so many detriments that if we're not aware or cognizant of it, can affect us and our family. So I learned so much from it. But what you can learn from it, hopefully, so many of the lessons that you see and you will be seeing from this experience. And yeah, just take it home, share with a friend. Hopefully that your friend who have, again, what would I say? Keep that in. Who would have wounded masculine and wounded feminine elements to them. Make sure you speak to them. And again, like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube at SubjectivityUK. Make room for wider conversation. This is your boy Lionheart.
And your girl Rachel.